and I'm starting a new session to talk to you about your project plan. But perhaps before I do that, I would like to just quickly check what else I was supposed to say in regarding ethics here. Okay, right. So perhaps yes, I should tell you that. I'll bring that over here. So here you have your assignment. So let's open that. So you have various scenarios here, dilemmas presented, and you'll need to analyze them from those different in the context of those different frameworks, ethical frameworks. So there are 5 dilemmas, and you need to write that and submit through the link provided. Where is that now? Here. Okay. And let me just reduce that for the moment. So you can also expand your knowledge more, reading about opening those links and read about ethical issues. They describe the trolley problem I mentioned before, where the person needs to make a choice between these conditions that will affect a group of people, and if the decision is made that the conditions will then change and just one person will be affected by that risk, by the danger of the runaway trolley, what considerations people should have, and what choice do they make from the ethical point of view. I can read more about the concept of responsible innovation. So there's some videos here that you can view. No, there's another. That's a trolley problem that you can analyze yourself and see what you would do in those circumstances. And you can review that slideshow again under that link, and then you will go to submissions when you complete that project, that assignment rather. And where is it? It's further down here. So assignment ethics, you use that link to submit. Oh, I see that one already submitted. Yeah, so the due date is early June, or 9th of June, so there's a fair bit of time for that. You can concentrate on your project plan first, and your project plan will be submitted through this link. So now there's 0 submissions because I removed one. And so that's using this link for submissions. But I want to go over the scaffolding. Where is that now? Here. Here in project details, you will find that scaffolding that I refer to a lot. Project requirements as well, but this project scaffolding that you need to follow when developing your project plan. So maybe I expand that. So you see, so you have a cover page there for your document. So don't be misled by this, because that is already what should be inside of the document. So you have cover page, the contents page showing all those headings there where they are, but then you'll develop this document. So introduction, all you need to say is what company was approached by, what client, who was that person, and what you were requested to do. Maybe also add the timing for that, when the client wanted the job to be completed, and what is the purpose of that project. And then so you don't need to write much, but if you want to add some information, yes, you can, but keep in mind that people are only interested in the important elements regarding that project. So they don't need to, and they don't want to write some waffle about the project, only the essence of it. So it will allow them to do for the team to complete the job the best they could, and have sufficient information for completing the job, and for the client to say that yes, that's what the client would expect to happen, and all those things to be addressed. So when he goes through the document, that could give him a warm, fuzzy feeling that yes, it's all good. The project is in good hands, and they should expect a good outcome in a timely fashion and within the budget. So in the scope of work, you declare what type of work will be involved in that project. So whether you only just develop a design and provide documentation, or whether you also supply the materials for that project, or whether you also take care of freight for that project, or whether it's somebody else's. So whether you also construct or manufacture the solution for the client, and whether you'll be also commissioning that solution, whether you'll be providing operator training, because that's something that a client should inform you and request early in the project, and whether you'll be managing the project. So that for that chapter is maybe in some literature, other literature, it's described differently, but to me that makes sense to make it clear, because that's what people will like to know. What is the extent of my engagement? If this company is only to design and document, or that design is already provided and we only need to construct, implement that solution. And who's going to commission? Is it going to be an independent party, or your company is going to commission that? Is the operator training required? Like if the project involves construction of a shed, so design and construction, there's no training required there, so it will not be applicable. And whether they want you to manage a project or just cover only those other things, and someone else will be managing the project. Although by the fact that you'll be writing this document, it will imply that you will be required to manage a project, but that needs to be declared clearly here. So you can expand that a little bit if you feel that it will help the reader to be better informed. So there's nothing wrong with that. So if I think I'll just leave that with these comments. So that section doesn't need to be large at all. In fact, this could be just one line: design and documentation. That's all some companies will be required to do. And deliverables. That is important to make clear what the client may expect at the end of the project, and what they will be reviewing, accepting, because deliverables will need to be accepted. So how it will be that acceptance will be carried out. So in most cases, it will be just the product or system that you task to design for your client. So that obviously it needs to be compliant. So that is why I just wrote here the compliant product. So in your case, will be just specifically you can say if it is a shed or if it is a gadget or an application for a mobile phone or whatever the project is. So that could be declared here. That's what physically or as a software will be produced by this project. And design documentation, because that's something that you'll hand over to the client physically, or it could be electronically, but it will be something tangible that they can see. And PM documentation that you would give the client a project management plan with all the attachments to it. And OQE documentation, so objective quality evidence, any material certificates, welder certificates, anything that is stipulated that needs to be supplied with the project. Because if you don't say that, if you don't declare that, then the client at the end of the project may say always that prove that all these things are the right quality. So, well, you haven't requested that. So we didn't make an effort to obtain all the documentation or have run processes that would allow us to obtain all this certification. So that needs to be clearly declared here. So the client say, yep, okay, I will have my OQE documentation at the end. And whether in some cases you will be producing an operation manual, in many cases you won't. Like for shed, you won't be providing an operation manual or electrical certificate. If it is a shed with some connections, and if those installation of electrical equipment is not your gig, is not your part of the scope, then you don't need to worry about that. It will be someone else's responsibility. So it not be applicable to a shed where you are only constructing the shed and not connecting the electrical lines to it, mains. And safety certificate, it's only applicable to installations where such assessment and then a certificate is issued. On the installations where I was involved for hay processing plants, there was part of the scope was to install safety equipment. So when people entered in some areas that they could be harmed, then the whole system would shut down, or that area of the system would shut down to make it safe. So then for an installation like that, a safety certificate will be required by the person who designed that certificate, that installation and commissioned it. So that will be applicable. For a shed, it won't be applicable. So in your deliverables, you won't have things like that, like maybe. So those three last points, you wouldn't have that day. You may have some other things that you may identify and think, yeah, that will be clear that in my case, this other thing should be declared as a deliverable. Now, this next important point, schedule of requirements. People make a mistake over and over that they cover those requirements in this document. And I specifically made a request that a separate document needs to be created with definition of the requirements. And if I can reduce that. So you have it here, you have a table that you can use for that. But that table, should I open that? Won't upset something else? No, it is a spreadsheet, so that should be all right. So you see here you have various categories of the requirements. So that needs to be a separate documents. a separate document. And categories here are more specific for, or more tailored for industrial projects, not for civil engineering projects. So for civil engineering projects, you'll have different categories here, be more suitable. So that's something I mentioned in my comments to Jessica. So requirements, the different additional categories should be created to better suit a civil engineering project. For example, you can have a category for materials, and in order to specify clearly so that it's like client specifying to you what kind of materials will be used, or they want you to use, or after agreeing on the concept, you will be declaring that in the area of materials, this type of materials will be used. So that will be one category that will be, I think, quite important for civil engineering projects. Another category could be construction, the way you say what type of walls they want, what type of frames, what roof structure, what windows, doors, a number of them. So maybe another category, absolutely, I think will be necessary with civil engineering project will be architectural requirements. So the shape of the whole building, the whole structure, dimensions. So the fundamental thing that many students don't include dimensions of that structure. That this will be the fundamental requirements for the project. So wall finish, what type of wall finish you want, layout with roads and a car park. So color scheme perhaps. So I was just brainstorming with things like that. Civil engineering people would have a better appreciation what other categories will be applicable to your project, and you can create those categories and replace the ones that are shown in that example. And services, if it is like a commercial complex, there will be all kinds of services that will be connected: electrical, air conditioning, plumbing, lighting, sewage, and facilities. So be another category. What kind of facilities you want there? The kitchens for toilets, dining, meeting room, whatever applies there, and it could be some other things. So you can think about the requirements that you should cover everything that you would need to take into consideration when calculating or estimating the cost of that project. So everything that will affect the price of the project should be here. All these requirements. So if you have some services there, because some projects could be just a hollow building, and all the services will be done by others. And you can also stipulate that in the requirements, service such and such by others, by third party. But if you have some services, then you should include what capacity they will have. And in the performance requirements, you can have that category there. You can have the capacity of those services, like air conditioning, even in the kitchen, what capacity equipment you want there. And so there will be probably more than you can think about for the requirements to really make them comprehensive. And the guiding principle should be for you that anything that will affect the price should be here. Because then if some customer wants to add something to it, so we were discussing those ethical considerations, they'll say, oh, well, that should be no brainer. That you would expect that something like that will be included. But if you have that clearly covered by the requirements, then this is your insurance policy. You say, oh, that's the content of our the scope of our deliverables. So anything else is extra. And I would like you to get used to use different sentence or the proper sentence structure. So if the requirement is a mandatory one, then you say this shall be, and this and that. So that word shall indicates that there's no negotiation. That's something that the project must provide. And if something is negotiable, that it is desirable, but if for some reason you cannot meet the requirement, you can indicate it by should. Just a preference. Now, so that was this part. I think I can close it outright. So regarding schedule, let me see. So because I'm now on those comments that I sent to Jessica, what else do we schedule? So that we have a schedule example that Jessica provided. So I hope, Jessica, you don't mind that I'm showing that to others. So that visually, that's something you would expect to see as an attachment, and that needs to be a separate attachment for the reason that people will be just using this document and not looking at other parts of your project management plan. We're mainly interested in this project and the requirements. So they'll pull them out and they'll be running around with them rather than with the whole document. So that schedule, rather than have the work breakdown structure, you can cover all those activities here. So there's no need to duplicate that work. You can go straight to developing the schedule, and all the activities will be shown here on the left-hand side with the description. So you have the first stage will be the phase we can call it is the concept phase, where you'll have negotiations, concept development, and then we'll have a milestone for approval. So the concept approved. Then will be next stage will be system design, then detail design, then implementation, which is construction or manufacturing. So all those things, all those activities, and all those stages will be covered here and shown. The duration of those activities will be shown by these bars on the right-hand side, and you will have a column in that project plan with percentage complete, which will then result, if you put certain percentage in that column, part of that bar will change color to darker, or there'll be another one inside showing how far that activity has advanced, which is an excellent way of visual representation, how all those activities are progressing. So as project manager, just one glance at that document will tell you how your project is progressing, whether you have any issues, whether some activities are. And often you'll be able to overlap some of those activities. Like I mentioned earlier, that once you have a system design completed, you can then start procurement of long lead items. So many activities could be happening in parallel, or in construction. A group of people will be working on one aspect while the other group will be working on the other aspect, and they will be related in a sequence in a proper way that one will be not interfering with the other, of course. But this is the format, so it could be done on A3 paper and then reduced to scan, or it could be done in sheets like in Jessica's case.
Could it's Jessica here.
Yeah.
How are you? I just want to know how to include this percentage in the grant schedule.
To employ what?
The percentage. in front of the each.
Percentage, okay.
Yeah.
If you look at that software, you should have a selection of number of different categories to have the percentage completed. And also resources, there'll be various categories. Depending on what software you're using, I'm not sure what this particular one offers, but definitely there will be a percentage completed or complete. There'll be another column there, and it is a very convenient feature of that spreadsheet. It will change the color. So if you look into that software, I'll be sure that you'll be able to find that feature in that software. That's Jessica, or who is it? Is
sorry?
that?
Yeah, I'm trying to find here. I have the software open. They call Grant Project.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe they are showing only with the progress. Let me just try to find here.
It may be under a different name, like you say. Maybe it is progress or something of that type.
But it's not showing the grant graphic. Like I can put it at the progress, but it's not showing the graphic.
The graph. So if you now type in, say, 50% or something like that, it won't change the color?
No, they are showing like a line inside this rectangular shape, just showing a line, like progressing in a line.
Okay,
I could share my screen just for.
Okay.
Maybe someone has the same question, can have the doubt. So can I share? I don't know if I can share anything here.
So I guess, Jessica, for the purpose of this plan, that would be good enough to show the activities and the duration. So perhaps you don't need to stress about that for the project plan. But in reality, when working on projects, that will absolutely be necessary and helpful to the project manager to have that feature in that spreadsheet, in that tool. Because that is a great indication and great help, as you can appreciate that. So I guess you can probably look for that later on, or I will check that perhaps as well, see if I can find that somewhere next time. I'll tell everybody how to activate that, so we don't dwell on that too much. But this is a good example of the project, but as I mentioned in my comments, all the stages need to be covered here, and what you declare in your document. So if the document also covers the design, so that schedule should show the design phases as well. So all the negotiations, so concept stage or phase with all the activities under the concept, and then perhaps we can call system design or other phase with all the activities, and show what is lacking here. You don't have milestones, so every now and then you'll have a milestone indicating, say, that something needs to be approved or some inspection needs to be completed. So that will be indicated by a diamond, a milestone, which will be an event somewhere in between. And so like the end of the concept stage phase, you'll have concept approval. And so there'll be line item here, concept approved, with a diamond there that at that time the concept is expected to be reviewed by the client. So the milestones should be also included in that spreadsheet.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's see. I'll reduce that. So these are comments regarding the schedule. Let's see if, so the document needs to be consistent. So if you are covering by your project the design and then implementation and then commissioning the project management, all that needs to be declared in your document. The chart for communication, the chart should just show, you can look at that from the practical point of view, see who needs to talk to whom in order for the communication to be effective. So you can review your that diagram according to that thinking, that analysis. At the end, I'm suggesting that each project should have a schedule of payments that will be kind of a guarantee that you won't have a risk of people delaying payments, or at least the risk will be reduced by declaring that clearly in the project management plan what you expect, when you expect the payments to come your way. So I can reduce that now to nothing. And so let's go through the scaffolding. Yeah, I call it scaffolding rather than template because this is just a structure on which you need to develop your program, your plan. Not just template that you can use, although some parts are exactly the format is that you have introduction, scope, all these points are as you should have them in your document. You can expand some, you can add some stuff if you believe that it is going to help others to complete the job quickly, so efficiently, and with smiles. So that was one attachment. The next one is your project schedule. So this is another one. So that they made it quite clear what phases should be in each project. That's what I expect. Every project will have that initial phase, which I call concept phase, where negotiations happen, the preliminary requirements are presented by client to you. Then you develop concept, and you then add other requirements based on the type of concept you developed. So from that stage, you move on to system design phase, where you are talking at a high level design, and say that will be different for civil engineering project, different for industrial projects, because of the nature of those projects. But there will be some kind of we can call it system design phase, the high level, before you start moving into the detailed design phase. Then once you have the system design phase with selection of equipment completed, then you can start negotiating supplies with your suppliers. So procurement will kick into action and see what equipment will have to be ordered earlier. So that can happen in parallel with the detailed design. So you can overlap those activities and eventually move on to the construction or manufacturing, depending what kind of project it is. And with all those activities that you identify will need to take place to complete that stage, that phase. And after the completion, that comes the testing and commissioning phase, including then sometimes could be training as well, if that is applicable, and eventually project closure. So your project schedule should cover all those phases and all the activities that you can. I understand that you haven't, many people haven't had exposure to real life projects, so they may struggle to imagine some activities that need to be completed. So, but your task is mainly to demonstrate the appreciation of those various phases of the project and how they relate to one another. And then the risk analysis. I like the idea that you, Jessica, you've had the separate attachment, because that gave you more room here. You were not limited, and sometimes because that table gives you limited space to describe all the details that you would otherwise have here. So you can make that a separate attachment and write as much as you think is necessary to adequately cover the risks. And then budget and contingency due to risks. That should be only estimated for high priority risks. So this comment here is for that purpose. You don't need to do it for everything. I understand that it is very difficult for people just starting looking into those things. So it's quite acceptable to just have a contingency as a percentage of the project value. So you can have that, and it was all right in your project. Like for quality plan, and the other person that submitted that was all over the place. So I propose here that is a new version of that scaffolding, a table that you can have, and you can provide the details in a table like this to satisfy that area of your quality plan. And in metrics, you just need to select the ones that you think are appropriate for your project and just change them to black and say, yeah, these metrics will be used to monitor and assess quality of the project. And that's pretty much all that needs to be said. You can expand on that a bit more if you think that will inform other stakeholders, especially the team, better. And you can leave that as it is. You can say, as some have, that who it will be just people, staff, where, lots of location and timing, and you can replace these names with something else. And also provide a different tool for identifying and assessing deviation. If you don't like that fishbone, you can have something else here. And also for audit schedule, that was one of the suggestions in the lectures there, that in the project plan you would have this declared clearly. So they say if you are going to conduct audits, when they'll be happening, why, what trying to achieve, who will be conducting them, and who that will be reported to. So that's the format I proposed for that area. So in general, the first audit should happen during the planning phase, and the next one should be early stage of execution, which will be the system design phase. Then communication plan, depending on what you want that communication, how people could expect that they'll be allowed to communicate. Like in this case, the customer can talk to the sponsor, you can talk to the project manager, and sponsor was not supposed to talk to other people, only to the project manager and the client. And so these other lines, they just show who can talk to whom without upsetting anybody. And the plan for this communication, so topic for communication and purpose for it, and who is it addressed to, who is responsible for creating that communication, and how often that communication should take place, and the method, whether it will be in person or via emails, or could be some depository place where documents will be placed. So that's another thing I propose that you can use to satisfy this communication plan. So that's your plan. That's how you plan to communicate. So that is declaring clearly to people who will be can expect and what format of communication to get to them. And when people will be reviewing this, they say, oh, hey, I also want to be involved in this or that, or I want that to be sent to me by SMS rather than email, and things like that. So that's the purpose of having this in your project plan. And team plan, so it could be in this format. And procurement, so here you just describe the process that will be used to engage suppliers, contract with suppliers, and so on. So it must align with the existing policies and procedures set up by the company. So that's a few words that you can say here how you will go about procurement, if there's anything specific, or it could be just as per company's what is it called, contract, I think, specification. And stakeholders, so they also propose that you bring that to your attention, also others, what significance people have, so various stakeholders have in your project. So that's what they are talking there in the lectures. So I propose this table to satisfy that area of the project plan. You have a role, the name of the person, and then you assess how important that person is for the project, and then what you need to do regarding the engagement of that party to your project. So you describe that here. So these are it's just proposition how you can describe the engagement with a client. It could be expanded more, it could be a much larger table if you feel that whatever information you think you'll need to cover here to communicate to people who will be reading your document, that's what's going to happen. And that's the level of significance of that person in the project. In the closure plan, there's depending what you will have, this could simply change to black and see which ones you want to include. You can have other things if you think that's appropriate for your project. And payment schedule and signature, and that will be the lot. So please follow this format as a minimum. I like Jessica added some other stuff to it, and that if it is adding to the value of the document, yes, by all means, please do that if you think that you'll inform the stakeholders better by adding that information. But if not, if it's just a waffle about stuff, please cut it out, because you'll be wasting your time thinking about it, and then you'll be wasting other people's time reading about it, and then perhaps even getting upset why we have things like that in the project plan. That should be a down to just bones information that is most important for others to know, and also declaring to your client how you're going to manage that project and what they can expect at the end and when, so they can rest assured they won't be losing sleep over the fact that they've committed the project to someone that may not come with the goods in the right form or right time. So I think that's all I wanted to say on this occasion. At this time, it took a bit longer, but I just want to prevent surprises and broken hearts later on when you think, oh, well, I thought it was less involved, it didn't require that much effort. Yeah, that's what is required. If you make a document in this fashion, it will be worth its weight in gold. That's how you should look at that. Is it enough for other people to know about that project? So like Jessica, you had that mission statement and all that. That is not necessary to be in this project, but if you feel that it will mobilize your team and you'll show to the client how you're standing from that perspective regarding the project, by all means, you can stay there. So let me just quickly bring you to this screen so I can record who is present today. I can close that now. I think that's enough about scaffolding. And I'll bring this screen over here because that's the screen that is reporting. Okay, so that thing I now have captured all the people that were present. So if they left earlier, then they may miss out on attendance. So today I thank you for your attendance. And if you have any questions, you can write an email to me. I'll try to answer that. And if not, we'll talk again next Wednesday. I'll stay here for a while. I'll switch off